Yes,
we talked about it yesterday. Mics are up. Studio is live. Good morning, Lagos. Thanks a lot for tuning in here on Smooth 98.1. Smooth Breakfast here with Ayo Mairo Ese
and Valentine Ohu.
It's time for us to look at in detail the national news headlines for today, the 20th day in the month of August 2019. To join us in our analysis this morning, we have Justin Ijeh.
Morning, world.
Good morning, Justin. Justin is at Justin Ijeh on Twitter. You can also follow us on Twitter at Smooth981FM to send in your comments as well. Use the hashtag freshlypressed981 so we can easily track your messages.
And you can send messages through Twitter at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is freshlypressed981. We're streaming live on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the conversation. You can also send us messages through Facebook. In the meantime, WhatsApp is the usual number, 0809-444-0981. And that is our WhatsApp number, 0809-444-0981. Let's start with this first story from the Guardian newspaper, Justin. Fayemi bans English language at traditional events in Ekiti State. We know there, the governor says that Kyari Fayemi is interested in improving culture and the practice of it, adherence of it. It's banned at traditional events. Please take us through the story, highlighting the fact that there are two Yoruba dialects in Ekiti State. One is Ikolo Ekiti, that's a deeper form, and there's an Ado Ekiti, that's the more regular.
Are you the in-law?
I mean, I did my
just
research.
check. Okay, so the governor speaking through the head of service who represented him at this event, Mr. Diezani, was informing all of us that giving the upcoming Festival of Arts and Culture in December, so it seems like it is joining the December Carnival bandwagon. They call it Festival of Arts and Culture. It seems that's what everybody's doing during the December season now. Okay, so fine. It's a good one as long as their head is on right about it, but I have a few concerns. He seems to be all over the place with his policy direction as it affects it. So in this same statement, he's talking about promoting Yoruba culture and therefore banning it. Number one,
Banning English.
Banning English, exactly, in traditional events.
Yeah.
Whether it's at a traditional event, whether it's discrimination at the end of the day, first and foremost, we're a constitutional democracy. People's rights are protected, whether you're promoting culture or not. So we have this penchant for making statements that we can't back up. So if somebody stands up you've pronounced a ban from the seat of government. If somebody stands up and speaks English at the traditional event, what exactly are you going to do? Arrest him and throw him in jail? Try him for what? For disobeying the governor? What are you going to do? This jackboot military mentality needs to go away. You don't like something, scream, ban. I don't like your face, I ban it.
Does he have a right?
Whatever, he doesn't. You are discriminating against whoever it is that chooses at that point in time, in that location, at that event, to speak English.
So do you think, I mean, this article hasn't highlighted if he's mentioned that there will be interpreters at these events? Because we know, for instance, in Wales, when they discovered that the Welsh language was getting extinct, yes, they made it compulsory that the nation must be bilingual.
So my point is this. There are certain things you can't legislate against. You can, by means of moral suasion, right, other means of promotion, encourage people to speak language. And by the way, I do acknowledge the fact that most of our local languages are under threat.
Yes.
But I have an issue here with is the way you're going about it by screaming ban. You ban rights, now we're banning language. And then he goes on to talk about the youth unemployment situation, right, in the States, that how they had advertised for 1,100 teacher positions and 19,000 people applied, and the need to develop skills and capacities of our youth. And I'm asking myself, how does your focus on banning this language and promoting a cultural and arts festival in December speak to that very real concern? I would like to hear more of constructive policy positions from Ekiti State.
Well, I understand because it was within a particular event that called for that kind of conversation, the Ekiti State Arts and Culture Stakeholders Forum. And he went on to add that, in his words, and I'm quoting, We should not forget to teach our children those values that will make Ekiti to remember their heritage.
I would like to hear that
and
he's
sustain our
reviewing
culture
the
as a
state's
people.
educational curriculum to bring
Yes.
it up to date to the 21st century.
And
Instead of
include
building
Yoruba as a compulsory
as a
subject.
subject, yes. Instead of building a new traditional ruler secretariat for monarchs in the states to make them more, quote, active and functional. End of.
Thank you. Our next story, Justin. This one is from the Punch newspaper. Very interesting, eh? Rub your hands together. Anyway, Diezani tackles EFCC over seized $40 million jewelry and iPhone. The iPhone in question is not just a regular one, it's a customized gold iPhone that's valued at $40 million and 2,149 pieces of jewelry. They said they are infringing on her constitutional rights. Could you take us through the story and highlight the rights that she mentioned?
Well, Auntie Diezani says you people should give her back her phone and her jewelry, which, if we recall, the EFCC, along with certain other forfeiture judgments they had gotten or declarations by courts, they had seized some of her property in Port Harcourt, I think, in Abuja. But the one that really created a buzz was when they released the news about the details of jewelry that had been seized. Right now, to give background to this story, Mr. Magu, the chairman of the EFCC, has been trying to, the news has it that he's been trying to get her arrested in cooperation with Interpol and foreign security agencies, but he's complained that they've not been very cooperative, that Diezani is being protected. That's why he's not been able to bring her back to the country to face trial.
But it said that in the UK, she's still facing money laundering charges.
Yeah, so the compromise position is that they've gotten the UK to charge her, but then he's saying that they are foot dragging on that case, that it appears as though, I mean, there's a lot of money at Anti-Disease disposal. So it's not only in Nigeria that law enforcement can be compromised. That's my opinion. Now, the EFCC, she's now applied to the courts through her counsel, Mr. Awakalu-san, before the Federal High Court in Lagos, to vacate the forfeiture order on the grounds that they had entered her apartment illegally, claiming that apparently claiming that the EFCC didn't have a valid warrant to break into the apartment. I don't want to believe that. The EFCC in its response hasn't said anything to that effect. Rather, they've said that the reason they've seized these things is that the respondent's known and provable lawful income is far less than the properties sought to be forfeited to the federal government. Now, I have a couple of questions here. By all means, I want Auntie to return our goods and go and treat her cancer very well. We want her to be well. Okay. We all remember that she had been diagnosed of cancer after all the scandals broke out, and she went to the UK. They found she had cancer. So she needs to take care of that and forget about iPhones. Now, the EFCC lists 419 expensive bangles. Nice coincidence with the number 419. Yeah. 315 expensive rings, 304 expensive earrings, 267 expensive necklaces, 189 expensive wristwatches. But my question is, how did you arrive at a value to all these expensive items? Did they call for a jewelry expert to value them? Did they find receipts? It's possible, right? 77 expensive brooches, and then this customized gold phone, which they valued in all at $40 million. That number to me is a bit I don't know. I don't have expensive items. I think it's on the high side. $40 million.
Jewelry.
It depends.
I yield to my potential ignorance
for
on that.
expensive jewelry.
You can rack up that amount very quickly.
An island with your children.
I'm looking at it somehow. So anyway, she's applied. The court has fought, so it's been adjourned till August 29th. This is a developing story, but I would just say that I would hope that the EFCC is learning from its international partners like the FBI. In the past week, we've heard about the FBI case against Obi. We've read the affidavit. We saw how it was meticulously detailed.
We talked about it
right?
yesterday.
Exactly. I heard you guys on that. We saw how they applied for the warrant and all that. They need to learn these processes,
and
because
very, very interesting that nobody knew until after 13 months of investigation.
Exactly. So it's not arrest first, investigate later. We need to change that.
Am from Akoka sent in this message on WhatsApp. It says, I'll give Fayemi an A for good intention, but I think he should be looking at the wider world. English isn't exactly a threat to our culture. Inclusion is key to driving tourism. Not sure how this will work, but what do I know?
Just ban it.
Bengus says, so Diezani has accepted that she owns jewelry worth $40 million. So I thought some people said the EFCC only sensationalized the worth of the jewelry. Sincerely, that this country is still alive with the level of looting is still a mystery.
There's still more. Ozzy says, yeah, the iPhone cost how much? Come on. Auntie should be quiet. She'll get no sympathy. Please, the iPhone cost how much again? I'm having a headache.
It's gold plated. You people should ask Ayo. Ayo is the one saying
she
that.
Continues, says, to be honest, I'm shamed that a woman like her is acting like a common thief. She says, sorry. I also doubt that a person with cancer would have time to pursue jewelry. Well, she didn't come herself. A lawyer is meant to represent her in court. My mom died of cancer, she says, and trust me, once she was diagnosed, our lives changed. Looking at Auntie D with side eyes.
All right, more comments here.
Trevor Noah's lapel says $40 million in jewelry. That's 14 billion naira. I don't believe it. All right, funny messages. We'll be taking them one after the other. The next story is from the Guardian newspaper. Justin, President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday, that was yesterday, challenged ministers-designate to reflect and assess the country's position in 2015 and now so as to chart a course for the country for the foreseeable future. He's told them and advised them to on running the country efficiently, telling them that it's going to be hard work and they need to be fully committed to it in a 2-day presidential retreat that he organized. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, my thoughts are that I do hope that he sets an agenda and establishes measurement parameters, KPIs for these ministers, because the buck stops with him. The ministers are simply an extension of him. He is the captain of the ship. So you're not going to outsource responsibility and outsource accountability to ministers because you give them portfolios. No, boss. The buck stops with you. You are the one that leads the charge. You are the one that says this is the direction in which we're going. You lay out the plans. Their job actually is to execute, not to strategize. So that's my take on it.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to this next story very quickly. Remember to send in messages to WhatsApp 0809 444 981. Now let's talk about corruption. The World Bank has released a new list. In that list, there are 6 Chinese companies currently named. So the list, they've actually blacklisted the 6 firms in that are operating in Nigeria. The companies CCECC, that's Nigeria Railway Company Limited, CRCC Petroleum and Gas Company Limited, and some others. Well, they named these companies. They said they were accused of violating the Global Bank's procurement guidelines and would not be eligible to be awarded any World Bank contracts between the 4th of June 2019 and the 3rd of March 2020.
World War. So I like to put things in context. So when I say World War, I'm talking about trade wars.
Yes.
So this is an extension.
On a global spectrum.
Yes, this is really an extension of the US versus China tensions that have been going on. The world is heading into a global recession. These two superpowers are jostling for position and they are using every tool in the kitchen against each other. I read this story and I was like, okay, we're here now. So the World Bank has you said they released the list and there are 6 Chinese companies on the list. The article says they blacklisted 6 Chinese companies. So this is very targeted. This is very focused. It's not a subset of any other action. This is the action in and of itself. They blacklisted 6 Chinese companies and the specific cases involving the blacklisted companies were not disclosed. The journalists have asked the World Bank to provide details. As of press time, they didn't provide details of what exactly the 6 companies have done, but they've been blacklisted from doing business. To be specific, what are they blacklisted from? Doing business with the World Bank, right? So these 6 companies and any affiliated companies to them cannot do business with the World Bank. Now, the World Bank has very extensive reach in global economic affairs, right? Yes. There's a whole lot of development projects going on funded by the World Bank. These companies cannot take part in any of those activities based on this ban. Okay, now, like I said, and this is for activities that were done before July 2016. You just came up now with this, very targeted on Chinese companies. So this is part of the US-China trade war. How does this affect Nigeria? How does this affect Africa? We basically need to reduce our dependency on foreign aid. So I had a very interesting conversation in 2017 with former U.S. Secretary of State Condi Rice. I was opportune to be in a forum where to speak, and I asked her a question. And I said, if I put you in a room with young African leaders, what would you say to them about U.S.-Africa relations? I mean, you've occupied a very strategic position in world affairs. What would you say to a room of young African people about the future of African leadership and all of that? And she basically said to me, you guys need to run from China. That's the summary of the response she gave to me. Remember, this was back 2017.
At the time, how did you react? Did you think it was biased, or
it was so this was a very internationally diverse group she was speaking to. So we had Russians, we had Chinese, we had Americans, we had South Americans and all of that. She said, you guys need to run from China, and you need to be, China is a failing power, was the word she said, and you need to beware of Russia. So I responded to her and said, well, the truth is, from my perspective, Africa has always been taking the brunt of international tensions between all of these powers you mentioned, and nobody particularly loves Africa. It's all about interest. So if I think that I am better served by whatever agenda China or Russia may be selling than US or other Western interests, I might lean that way. I don't believe that there's any altruism in global affairs. So the conversation ended around that, and then the group had further discussion about it later. But the point I'm making is, these things are going on, and our leaders here have a responsibility to to navigate these stormy waters. There's a global recession knocking on our front door, and we are here, and I don't see anybody actively charting a course that is going to take us away or take us to safety about it, and it worries me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Comment here from YouTube. William Campbell says, where is the Chinese judicial system when you need it? The looting that has happened in this country, it hurts, man. Well, listen to Condoleezza Rice, no business.
And of course, we have messages. This on WhatsApp. Yinka sent in this one, says, Kai, stop it. International brother Bao, FBI to EFCC, they are not from the same parents.
And then we have this one from Emeka. If Nigeria won, they should hand over Kashamut International Police. Now, EFCC cannot get Diezani repatriated to Nigeria.
Maina is back here. We haven't done anything with Maina.
Interesting.
The pension guy.
And so it says, for those of you still asking, I have saved you the stress. The iPhone cost 14 billion naira.
550 million.
Very interesting. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on to our next story here. Oyo-Ita bows to pressure, forwards resignation to Buhari from the Daily Times. The embattled head of the service of the Federation, Winifred Oyo-Ita, has bowed to pressure as she has purportedly sent her letter of resignation to President Muhammadu Buhari following the allegations of 3 billion naira fraud leveled against her by the EFCC. Justin, what's your take on the story?
Well, it's an unfolding story, and the one thing that I find positive in this story is she's willing to walk away from the position while the investigation is ongoing. The report says she has decided to quit her position because of the controversy surrounding the allegations, her state of health, and advice from the family. She is, however, still determined to meet with President Buhari to prove her innocence. I like the fact that she recognizes this is not something that's very common around here. People in high office, allegations start flowing around. Yes, it may not be proven in a court of law yet, but at a certain level, depending on the weight of the allegations, you need to step aside and let the issue run its course. If you're cleared, you can always be reappointed to office. So I like the fact that she's walking away.
Yes.
I like the fact that it says she's still determined, she's available to prove her innocence. I'm worried about this mention of health, because it appears whenever our public office holders is accused of something, they suddenly become ill. And that's a pretext for, I need to leave the country to go and take care of my health. If the allegations are proven to be true, I don't want to hear, I now have cancer. I need to go to Australia to go and treat myself. No, you sit down here, all of us will sort this thing out.
I think it's also important to highlight the fact that the spokesman of the president, Malam Garba Shehu, had said they hadn't received such a letter. So this is a claim. And I think it was Cheta yesterday on Twitter who had talked about the worrying state of leaked letters and memos from the presidency.
It's a barometer for how people feel even within the administration. Let me use the US as an example. Remember when the Trump administration first started, there was this flurry. In fact, it's still ongoing. There are always leaks. Look, when people are not happy, this is what happens.
Yes.
They can't come out officially and make statements, so they leak information. I mean, a query was given to Mr. Fowler of FRSC. We saw the query. He responded to the query. We saw the response. So there are leaks happening all over the place. It's a gauge for the temperature of the people.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
People are sending us stats on WhatsApp, stats about the iPhone. I think it's my boggling story this morning.
It is a trend.
Jman X says Falcon Supernova iPhone 6 Pink Diamond $48.5 million USD. That's million US dollars. This is the most expensive iPhone.
I told you, Justin.
Wait. Just the phone.
Yes, it will shock you.
48.5.
So in Diezani's case, remember the figure given is supposed to include all of that jewelry and then the cosmetic.
She said phone alone
I think it was valued at $20 million.
The phone alone was actually what was in contention. She had given the amount for the phone.
I know that's what gets a lot of people's attention. Mangus is asking, so which version of the story did Justin read? I understand that her resignation is to give her a soft landing and not allow for proper investigation.
Well, that's what the story presented before. That's the fact presented.
That your understanding is not what's in the papers, bros.
Rainmaker came here to say, sorry to bring you guys back, please. The iPhone or the iPhone company stocks she has. Is it the iPhone or the company stocks? The EFCC invoice or the receipt? Is that the iPhone Apple will release?
Trust me, it's not the one you're using.
He said, Pepe have run into my head. Very interesting. Thank you guys for making us laugh.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the Guardian for this next story. So the ICC, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, has arrested 37 officials of the Federal Road Safety Commission for allegedly extorting motorists on Nigerian highways. So according to them, there's been a joint team effort to check this corruption on our highways. Can you take us through this story?
I think we should start something here. I think we should start doing a league table for the best MDA of the week, best military department of the week, right? Because for me, ICPC is the MVP for this week. Everybody knows about the extortion on our roads, whether it's the police doing the extortion or FRSC officials doing the extortion. And the question that always boggles my mind is, am I the only one seeing these people do? Because they don't hide about it. You are on the road, you see. I mean, I think was it Chatter that posted a video? It wasn't Chatter. Someone was filming. Someone was driving behind a bus. At a checkpoint, and the person behind the bus just filmed the police officer as he was stretching out his hands and collecting the bribe that they always collect.
I've seen a few videos like that.
I mean, it's a normal daily occurrence, and the question is always, why is nobody doing anything about it? Well, people, the ICPC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Commission, teamed up with the DSS and Federal Road Safety Commission to conduct a sting operation, right? A simultaneous orchestrated sting operation across the 6 geopolitical zones. And they arrested 37 core officials and 5 of their agents. They're always enablers, all the Judases in the house.
Yeah, these ones are civilians.
Civilians who were their accomplices. This was done on Friday, August 16th, right? So while we were doing TGIF, the good people of the ICPC were out on the road taking down all those people who give us a very bad time on the roads. This was conducted all over the country, like I said, in Aba in the southeast. They said 13 people, so Aba seems to have been a hotspot because out of the 37 FRSC officials arrested, 13 and 2 out of the 5 civilians were arrested in Aba alone. While 24 other FRSC officials and 3 civilians were arrested from various spots on the roads across the country. I say kudos to the ICPC. Please do keep it up. And if you need us to send in tips on where they are, we can help you crowdsource We can do a ways for where police are extorting
that the
people.
taste of the pudding is in the eating. So with all these arrests, what we're looking forward to is when we go on our roads and we drive, we don't have policemen on the road extorting money from
Yes,
civilians.
if somebody offends or commits a traffic offense, by all means, do the needful. But stop giving people passes in exchange for 15 naira. And I mean, we've heard those cases where bus drivers especially resist and it ends up in a shooting.
Yeah.
There'll be
Is Happy
more than-
Sunday still allowed though? Is it part of it?
Is it a thing?
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend, sir.
All right.
Another
Okay.
person to the message on WhatsApp says, question, how many allegations have been proven to be true under this administration? Also, perhaps, if we restrict forex for public officials traveling abroad for health reasons, our health sector will get better. I'd say me.
I think fix the health sector
I
first of
know.
all.
And then Yinka is still rebelling from the iPhone thing. It says, phone for such amounts. Can the phone call God? Are we sure?
Yinka, go and buy
Add
Apple
salt to
stock.
the stew? Interesting. Speedo says the price. Okay, let's move on.
Move on.
Shield says 37 arrested only. That's only one local government area now.
And then Emeka says same intimidation strategy by the cabal. Oyo-Ita squared up to Kyari. Now the cabal has beamed the searchlight on her bank account like the former CJN, digging out her details. There is monumental corruption in high places of government in Nigeria. So if the cabal want to take you down, they will dig out your details. ICPC should wake up. I think this is quite
quick
worrying.
tip: if you don't want to be taken down, since we know there's a cabal and we know their MO, don't dip your hand in the cookie jar. If you attain office,
Yes.
keep your nose clean. So when they come
Absolutely.
after you, they find nothing.
Your hands are clean. All right, thank you very much, Justin. Let's move on to this one. Update from yesterday's story on FRS boss, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, who has yesterday we did say that he was going to give a response yesterday morning to the memo that was
A
leaked.
robust response.
All right, now he's come out with a response. Can you please tell us what his response is?
Well, he's basically broken down the revenue profile of the country over the 2 periods that the query was addressing, without going into too much detail about it. And the summary of his response is: listen, we have oil revenue, and we have non-oil revenue. The FRS, our mandate focuses on non-oil revenue, and the shortfalls that you've highlighted were basically driven by shortfalls in revenue from the oil sector. And of course, we know that there's a further complication when you consider that we experienced currency devaluation during the period.
Yes.
So, I mean, he went all in on drawing that distinction and basically pushing the buck back to his bosses and saying, listen, you can't hold me accountable for what happens in the oil sector. That's completely outside my
How
purview.
valid is this response? With
It's
regards
a
to-
valid argument he's made. Now, if you want to go into extra detail, you can start to pick holes in his argument. But on the surface of it, it's a very valid argument that he has made about the difference between oil revenue and non-oil revenue. Was there, at the end of the day, why I say you can pick holes in it, at the end of the day, the only thing we've learned here is, as a whole, we earned less revenue in the period.
a lot less.
Like the query said. But the point is, are you querying the right person about that situation?
Who should be
I was going to
querying?
ask that question. Shouldn't we ask that question?
So no, wait now.
Okay.
So it's very clear that the major shortfall is oil revenue. So who is your Minister of Petroleum?
The president.
Now you talk.
No, it's fact. All right, let's move on to our final story for this
Although on
morning.
that table, there are a lot of people.
All right, well,
It's
he
a
hasn't
pool table.
reconfirmed himself though, so we do not have a current Minister of Petroleum. Let's move on to
Okay.
this day newspaper. Lagos Assembly confirms 35 commissioner-nominees, rejects 3. So just an update on the commissioners that were sent to the Lagos Assembly for confirmation. Now, the only challenge here is that of the 3 that were rejected, in all the newspaper dailies, there's no reason given for the rejection or why they were declined. But please take us through the story quickly.
What do you now want me to take you through? Let's all go to Bodyland. They were not confirmed.
Seriously, what could be possible? What could be possible reasons?
I choose not to speculate. We don't know. The
It
story
wasn't
did not
actually
say.
stated.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the messages then. One thing we're sure of. Collins here says, I drove to Delta State on Saturday and I counted at least 30 police checkpoints. At every checkpoint, police collected money from commercial drivers. Vincent from
Use your camera phones, guys.
Vincent says the letter of query to Babatunde Fowler is simply to discredit him and not allow him return for the second term, is my humble opinion. Yemi from VI says there's extortion in almost all government agencies, immigration and IMC, marriage registries, FRSC, customs, court registries, etc. The mess.
My head is spinning with the list.
Fayemi says the Oyo-Ita corruption case was prior to this administration, which was brought out now because she's been the pain in the behind for the cabals. And Dr. I.
It says, hello, listening to Fowler's response shows that there's a lot of propaganda in this government. The crux of the matter is that there was a better or higher revenue collection in previous years than under his watch.
Very interesting.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for sending in your messages, your comments, and a big thanks to our analyst for this morning, taking it on like a trooper, Justin Ijeh. You can follow Justin on Twitter at Justin Ijeh. Don't forget to follow us collectively at Smooth91FM. Use the hashtag FreshlyPressed91 to continue the conversation. At 9 o'clock, we'll take one of these stories and analyze it, opening the phone lines for you to call in and give your comments. Good morning. Whew, I survived.
You survived. You answered all your questions.